Hi, my name is Erica T. Worth, and I'm the author of White Horse that's out with Flatiron Macmillan November 1st, and it's an Indigenous literary horror novel. It's about Carrie, who despises her mother because she thinks she abandoned her when she was 2 days old. And she loves heavy metal and she loves horror. Those are the things she loves. But when her cousin Debbie gives her an old bracelet of her mother's, Carrie's like, yeah, thanks, and basically tosses it aside. And but when she touches it, her mother starts haunting her, the ghost of her mother, and this monster begins to invade her dreams. And so Carrie decides that she guesses she should find out what happened to her mother after all. And one of the bits of inspiration for this novel was had to do with my grandmother, as I had been told all of my life that my grandmother had suicided. But when a cop looked at the death certificate for my mother, he said to her that it sort of looked like it had been doctored, and the family came to wonder if her husband had murdered her. And so that controversy has never been resolved. And I think in some ways the tension between those two potential very, very different facts in some ways kind of like stayed inside my brain and erupted into this novel.
Hey, it's Well Red Beard. I appreciate you being here. I'm back full time on my channel. I would love for you to come over and subscribe. Just search Well Red Beard on YouTube. I delve deep into horror. I've spent the last 3 years reading a ton of independent small press horror. There's treasure to be found there, and I go out there and find it for you. I'm not afraid to tell you the books that aren't great while telling you the books that are great. I don't break hearts or hurt feelings, but if a book doesn't work for me, I will tell you that, and I'll tell you why. I'm on a new mission now to go back and dig into some great horror from the 80s and 90s. I'm working my way through Robert McCammon's books. I'm going to look at all of Peter Straub's work. I'm going to do Brian Keene. I've got aspirations to go back and do J.F. Gonzalez, a lot of the greats, so you have a good idea of where to start. I have a video up for J.F. Gonzalez's Survivor, so you can see what all the fuss is about. I recently read Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, so you can see what all the fuss is about. I just want you to come over and subscribe. I'm trying to grow the thing. I appreciate you taking a look at it. This is Well Red Beard. I hope you're enjoying all your books as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.
Does my voice sound weird to you?
Always.
Sounds fine to me.
Well, I have it so I can hear my own voice in the microphone now, just because it kind of helps me here not to interrupt people.
Right.
Take notes, Brennan. No, just kidding. But yeah, hi, Trevor. This is really exciting for us.
Yeah. Thanks for asking me to come on.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure, man. Absolutely, our pleasure.
Very nice to talk to you and put a face to a Twitter presence.
Yeah, that's why I love doing the video version, because you can you get to know someone a whole lot better that way.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Also, you guys just had Jor Lansdale.
Yeah, we've had Lansdale on a few times. We had him on with David Morrell last night, and that was really cool just to hear, two guys who have really been around and, done a lot of cool stuff in the genre, just talk to each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Be a spectator there.
Right.
They brought up Frank Sinatra a lot more than I thought, and they had some really funny Harlan Ellison stories that deals with Frank Sinatra. Oh, yeah, Lansdale does impressions. I can't get 3 words in without Joe interrupting, and that's not to say he's rude, but he's just he's a very powerful presence, and we're on very comfortable terms with him now. And Brennan was like to Casey, man, you must have had an interesting life growing up with
you. Yeah, I can imagine. Jesus.
You guys want to get started?
Sure.
Yeah.
Welcome to Dead Headspace. I am your host, Patrick R. McDonough, joined always by my co-host, Brennan LaFaro. Say hello, Brennan.
Hello, everybody.
Today, we are joined by speak for Brennan on this one, too, one of our favorite artists, Trevor Henderson, also a writer. Say hello, Trevor.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And this is our third annual Halloween special. The first one was with David Michael Wilson, Bob Pastorella. This is Horror Guys. Then the second one was Janine Pipe last year. And now we got Trevor. It's truly an honor, man. You're super easy to talk to.
Oh, thank you.
Before social media, you see all these people that you love their artwork, you love their books, music, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but before I started to really talk to people, I just put them on a pedestal. I was too nervous to talk to them. But now you just find out most people are super down to earth.
Yeah. That's been my experience. Absolutely. They're just regular. It's just a guy. It's just a regular guy.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not a big deal in any way.
Yeah. But let's dive into what got you into horror, because you are just all over the place with your art, soon to be with your writing too.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mean like, because I've loved horror all my life. Do you mean like what
start at the beginning, man?
Give us the origin story.
I've mentioned this on a couple other podcasts before, but it's all my dad, who is a diehard lifelong horror fan. And when I was really young, he really encouraged me to get into that, and encouraged me drawing monsters and writing about monsters and all that good stuff. He used to work, he's retired now, but he used to work really into the early mornings unloading trucks at like big grocery store warehouses and stuff. So he'd come home at like 2 a.m. on a school night, and I'd be, like a 9 or 10-year-old, and he would wake me up in bed, and we'd sneak downstairs in the basement and watch like Army of Darkness and Return of the Living Dead and like Incredible Melting Man and just whatever happened to be on the docket for that night. And then, if my mom woke up, I'd hide behind the couch until she went back to bed, and then we'd keep watching whatever gnarly shit he was showing me that he absolutely should not have been showing me at that age. But it was a very positive influence on me, and helped me really associate the horror genre in all its many storied forms as a very cozy, kind of nostalgic, kind of very comfortable thing for me. So I guess that was the start of all that. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm just gonna read. I was telling one of my best friends back, when I say back at home, I mean in Massachusetts, my home state. I was telling him, me and him talk about the show. He was actually, shout out to Mason Craddock. He was the one that I first talked about starting a podcast.
Cool.
A couple of years before I actually started one. So we talk about who's on every now and then, and I mentioned you. And I didn't have to tell him anything because he's actually a huge fan.
Oh, that's so cool.
He said, tell him that since I saw Siren Head, it always gives me an uneasy feeling being alone around power lines at sunset.
Oh, amazing.
But seriously, some of his creations, I swear, I expect to see jump out at me from the dark of the road. So many amazing, creepy stuff. His mind is a treasure trove of creepy creations. And he had a question. Did you come up with Momo?
No, Momo is actually an art piece. I forget the artist's name, forgive me. But it's an art piece that was part of a show. It's a Japanese artist who made this sculpture. Like you can find photos of, the face of Momo is the very known thing. But there's photos of the whole thing, and it's like a bird woman on two arms with no legs. And it was kind of co-opted into becoming this weird like TikTok Instagram fad where it was people, I don't even know if it ever actually happened in this way, but parents became obsessed with the idea that it was like, it would pop out and do a jump scare and tell kids to cut their own wrists and kill themselves, and I don't think that ever was happening, but like I think the artist got a bunch of hate for it, and he ended up like burning the sculpture, A, because it was rotting and it was very old, and B, because it was just like nobody deserves the kind of nonsense that was coming down on him for that. I think that was like a year ago or two, but I remember around the time I did get a bunch of parents reaching out to me and being like, did you make this? How dare you encourage kids to do it? I'm like, that's not even one of my monsters. Like I didn't even do that one. But yeah, super scary face on that thing.
When the actual murders were happening with the the 12-year-olds, my wife and I had a conversation because, I mean, as long as she's known me, I have a penchant for horror. And long story short, she's like, well, what would you do if you were in that scenario and you were the creator?
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, it's something all of us got to think, but at the end of the day, I've thought of both sides of the argument. That's not my responsibility.
No.
Like it is insane to think one person can be responsible. You can put all the warnings on it. It's not the artist's responsibility to parent your children. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. That
I'd feel terrible for but I wouldn't stop doing what I'm doing.
No, I mean, like, that's a nightmare for me. I knock on wood, nothing like that ever happens with Siren Head or any of the creatures I've made. But no, I mean, you just gotta put out what you want to put out into the world, and if you can put out all the precautions you want, and if someone's going to take it in a certain way, someone's going to take it in that way, and there's not really much you can do, unfortunately. God, horrible case though, Jesus.
Yeah, and there's actually one more thing that Mason said that you probably find interesting. His family has this place in East Corinth, Vermont, and I've been there once. Just it's too far for me to go to as much as I would like. But the cool thing about that town is that's where they shot a lot of Beetlejuice, the movie.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and he showed me the hill. I got pictures of it if you ever wanted to see it. But where the hill is, where the main house is, there's no house there anymore. The bridge is still there. The hardware store is actually in pretty deplorable condition. The owner it's really, you'd think with Beetlejuice that there would be a tour there.
You'd think so. I mean, I think it goes either one way or the other. Like, you either get the gas station from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is like a real tourist destination now, and you can get barbecue, and there's a big prop chainsaw out front you can like throw around above your head if you want, or it just, people don't want that kind of trade coming through, like tourist trade coming through, and they just try, and it just falls to it doesn't get maintained in that way, I guess.
There was pretty much like there's like 5 people there. It was nothing. And same with Martha's Vineyard and Jaws. Like, I asked around, there's no tours, which
the Jaws one is wild to me. Like, you think the Jaws one would be crazy, because people who like Jaws, like really like Jaws, are hardcore about it. It's one of those movies where like the fan bases are really, really into it. I think
it's rampant.
Yeah, exactly. That's wild.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have been to Vermont, but like I've been throughout the entire New England area, but Vermont's it's beautiful, but at night it's super fucking dark. So just to paint an image of what he's about to say, he said, every time I drive to Vermont, which is a lot, in the dark, and there's a long stretch of dark highway, he says, I always picture and expect a Trevor Henderson creature to come running out into the road. It scarred me for life after seeing his creations. That is
incredible.
Highest of compliments, man.
If that is my legacy, that and encouraging little kids to draw their own much better monsters as they grow up. Like those two, I could die tomorrow, and that's like perfect for me.
Have you ever thought, what my ultimate dream is, one day I want to be in a position where I could, on a global level, promote literacy to children and adults. Yeah. It's amazing. I remember, we'll talk about Scholastic later in the episode, but I mean, all 3 of us, probably most listeners, the Scholastic Fair, that was just like, it beat Christmas. Okay.
Oh yeah, no. Oh my God. Yeah. I was obsessed with it. I never got into like the Christopher Pike train.
I didn't either. I was R.L. Stine.
I somehow dodged that completely, but I was all R.L. Stine. And I was all about the scary stories told in the dark, and a lot of the weird knockoff in between books that were like kind of trying to cash in on those 2 properties. I always ate those up, like weird, like Spine Chillers or Spine Tinglers or any of those little in between series. And then a bunch of YA, just like standalone horror novels were like the my bread and butter for a while before I jumped into my dad's Stephen King's and just went from there.
Have you ever thought about exploring doing just that, is writing books about how to create, like basically being the Bob Ross of creation for children?
I mean, that would be amazing. It's not something I've thought about extensively, but man, I would be all over that. I've been asked a couple of times to do like little like Zoom talks to classes. I've done 1 or 2 in the past, and that's always super fun. But man, I would love to do that. Maybe like, if the Scholastic book catches on and there's a whole like R.L. Stine-esque series, then I can, retire at like 40, 50 years and just talk to kids about scary stuff. That'd be amazing.
I'm getting excited about that because my kid's 3, and it's very possible for you to realistically do that while he's at a very pertinent age of that excitement. Wow.
Oh yeah, cool. No, man, kids getting excited about monsters, that's the best. I love it. It's so good.
I can't believe I didn't write this down as no. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have to.
No, you're good.
One of my favorite shows growing up. Well, you're a 90s kid, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I was I was around like I was intaking media in the early 90s. I was
Me too. So I bring that up because one of my favorite shows was Our Real Monsters, and I want to hear your take on that or any other show growing up.
Well, justice for Our Real Monsters, because Monsters Inc. just stole the whole goddamn plot from Real Monsters. With like way tamer monster designs. If you ever look up the concept art for Monsters Inc., the concept art, oh my god, the monster designs are so much cooler and weirder, and the style they were going to do it in was it was just way better. I understand maybe it didn't translate, but it was stolen from us. But All Real Monsters was one of my favorites back then. I was all about those various Nickelodeon shows, and just the fact one of the characters was like chubby dude, like a Danny DeVito torso with like eyeballs in its palms.
That is so dead on.
I have never thought of that. That's great.
So good. Yeah, God, that's a show that's due for a re-examination. I'm sure that's going to pop up in like 5 years or something. People will be like, remember this one?
They did Rocko's Modern Life movie. That was not too long ago.
They just did a Courage the Cowardly Dog meets Scooby-Doo movie. Like there's no.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, right. They just kind of slipped it out unnoticed. But yeah, All Real Monsters meets like the Wild Thornberries or something. I'm sure it's coming like 2025.
Courage the Cowardly Dog was one of my favorite shows, probably like a preteen or whatever. But man, that show is fucked up.
Yeah, that's a show I also completely somehow missed when I was a kid. And
it's great as an adult too, if you're stoned too, man.
Some of the stuff in those episodes is wild. I did a little marathon of those with friends last year, I think. And watching them just as a first timer, never having seen any before. It's really good. It holds up really well. Weird like Midwest folk horror, like channeled through like a Nickelodeon kids show.
Yeah, and it's got excellent atmosphere and ambience, creepy ambience. Brennan, please jump in, sir.
I actually want to kind of go back to when you were talking about driving through Vermont, looking into like say the dark woods and imagining a monster. I feel like that's almost the aesthetic I think of when I think of your art, Trevor. I'm wondering,
that's what started that idea, is what started the art. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go.
No, that's okay. That's kind of my question. Like, where does that start? You talked about some of the movies you watched with your dad.
Yeah.
What are some early influences that made you, just kind of picture that dark room, that dark forest, that dark alley, and what could be lurking in there?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've been drawing horror stuff all my life, but it wasn't until like 2018 or so that I got onto the kind of track that I'm on now. And the initial idea of it was, because I started out doing it like purely digital without the photo element at all, but I still wanted to recreate, do like a moment from a found footage horror film for a found footage horror film that does not exist. And then pair it with, the Twitter limit, flash fiction, just like as many characters as Twitter can give me, to try and give it just enough context. And between those two things, can I give the experience of a found footage horror movie in like an instant? But it's definitely the choice to have it like, suburbs and like big city alleys and like dark streets, like places that a lot of people who would see it on Twitter, go by every day, or it's outside of their home. I think that by grounding whatever monster or horror you're drawing in that kind of environment, it gives it like this weird sense of recognition in the viewer. Like it's places, so even though if that's not your house or your driveway, it could be. It's very, very close. Like it's the same sort of thing. So it's just like one step closer to giving it the effect of it being in the real world, a real recognizable world, that hopefully paired with texture and lighting and obscuring just the right amount of details and paying attention like shadow and all that. gives you that half a second thing where your brain has to catch up with. Obviously, this is drawn on a photo. If I can make someone doubt it for half a millisecond and maybe like get someone in that way, then that's the entire purpose of everything about it. And I think that's less common now because I've been doing it for like 4 years. I've done like probably 500, 600 of those things by now. But in the beginning, definitely, I feel like that was a big part of the appeal and why it caught on. And also the fact that people could donate photos. It became like almost like a contest for theirs to get picked, to get drawn in. I think that really was part of the selling point.
That's such a cool notion, and it makes me think of we had talked to Bev Vincent a while back, and we talked about why write horror versus fantasy or science fiction, whatever. And he said one of the kind of appeals to writing horror is that the world is already there. You don't have to create it. Instead, you basically just drop these horrifying things in places that people are already so familiar with. And that's half of where the chills come from. Is I know that forest, I know that dark road. That's how I come home from work. And
exactly. Yeah, like a fantasy world, when you want stakes, or a science fiction world, you have to first really establish that world and make it as real as the real world, and then you can have these elements in it that are disrupting that world. It's like taking a couple steps out when you're doing a horror, because that world is our world and it's something that you're comfortable with, like you were saying, and then the disruptive elements can just jump in and provide the conflict or start the story without having to really establish that world.
I gotta send you some pictures one day of the tribe. Please, I have.
Yeah.
No, seriously, because New Jersey's weird, man. Like, I used to make fun of it before I even visited it, but that's where my wife's from. And then I started to realize she's from South Jersey, way different than North Jersey, where it's all like industrialized and stuff. But where we are, it's like an actual small town America. There's a section where it's like all beach town. Then there's like Atlantic City, and then there's just farmland. But I work in Atlantic City. I'm about 30 minutes from there where I live. And on foggy days, you'll go on the main highway to Atlantic City. I'm not kidding, man. It looks like Silent Hill. And you're surrounded by marshlands.
Right.
And it's really bizarre because, like, I've almost gotten in a head-on collision from, I can only presume, a drunken dumbass that was in the wrong lane. Jesus. Coming full speed at me. So, like, it's not unlikely, but it's probably not going to happen. But that or a creature just coming out of the blue, I could see it.
Even my partner Jen Woodall just did a big graphic novel with Oni Press called Space Trash. It's really, really good. But Oni, as part of the promotion for the book, had us go up to ALA, which is like the Librarians Conference in Washington in the summer, I guess. And driving up to Washington, we came in really late, and that whole area outside is just like littered with those deer warning signs, like deer crossing. And we're just terrified of like something like stumbling out of the bush in front of the car. Deer alone, but I can just imagine like some horrible figure, and that's the entire the scare factor of the work I try and do, I guess. It's just that like something stumbling in front of the car.
But when we were driving back home from Massachusetts to Jersey, my wife isn't one to really buy into a lot of stuff that we may, which is fine. That's her outlook on life. But she's like, I just saw a big saber-toothed tiger looking thing. I'm like, not sure what that is, but I'm glad we're driving.
Yeah.
And there's so much woods that I mean, it's not crazy to really think that maybe there is one of your creatures out there.
Yeah, you think about how many like just miles of highway and back roads and stuff there are in America alone, in between like little towns and like just little lights on the map, as it were, with the darkness in between. Who's to say, right? I don't know.
I mean, realistically, how many creatures do we know that are alive? How many do we not know about that didn't make it to the records before humans were here? There's a lot, and we're just talking about this one planet,
Yeah.
there are so many strange things out there that sometimes I like the theory that perhaps it's not like, and this is not taking the Christian approach, but perhaps like, demons and devils, maybe they're just other creatures from different planets, dimensions, whatever.
Yeah.
And we just some of us try to like think of it as demons or whatever. But I like what you do because it has so much room to grow. And
yeah,
there's so many number of like your cat creature. I mean, I know you saw this, but it's not the same exact look one. I wrote about this cat that's kind of cartoonish, but creepy as fuck.
I saw you mention that. Yeah.
And I bring that up because that alone, or a Siren Head or whatever, it could be a movie. It could be a series. And weird segue, but have you had anyone approach you that you can talk about where there's serious interest there, it's a project that you are excited about, that you can maybe talk about? If you can, I get it.
Yeah, there has been interest on several fronts, and I cannot speak at this time about that, unfortunately.
Understand.
Yeah, I would love to, but I cannot.
No, I get it. I could say this now because Paul Tremblay mentioned it on he mentioned on the Curator of Horror, Chance Forshe's Terrifying Totems of Terror. But we talked about his movie with M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah,
we couldn't keep it on there, and he mentioned on Chance's podcast, so he's like, I kind of wish I didn't say that because we didn't really say that much. But I just thought that was funny because like there's so many cool things that we are potentially able to do. Like I was mentioning the social media thing. I know now after talking to so many people that it's realistic. It's not pipe dream to be in Josh Malerman's shoes one day. Like I'm not saying like be as prolific or whatever, but you could make it there. That dude was so poor that he was collecting cans to get beer money at one point with his band, and now look at him. He's living the dream.
I honestly think anybody can get there. I think that talent is a quotient, obviously, but I think it is such a small part of it. I think it is. I think anyone can be a successful artist, or not even saying that I am. I'm just saying like I think you can work at it, and I think that nobody's automatically a bad writer or a bad artist. Personally, I think that anyone can build it up and become that. It just takes like the ethic.
Oh, absolutely.
There is no substitute for drive, I think.
Yeah, drive is absolutely 100% the most important thing. Yeah.
I see people mention, Brian, jump in after this. Not one person or not, two or whatever, but like in general, I've seen newer writers mention they'll be talking with filmmakers or whatever. And I kind of cringe at that now because I know from talking to enough people that like, there's no certainties. And if you start getting it out there, I don't know, man. I just always think like, well, what if an agent's got an eye on you, or what if a publisher, or what if like they don't want their people talking. There's NDAs, man. Yeah.
I, as someone under many NDAs at the moment, absolutely, they do not want you to do that. But yeah, that stuff can happen. Malerman is awesome. I love Malerman. I just read Daphne.
He's hard to know.
Oh, so good, right?
Daphne was great. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that. You can feel the It Follows inspiration in that book. And I'm a huge fan of that movie. And I think he just like nailed it. Like the Candyman vibe, the Bloody Mary vibe. Such a good book.
The way he tackles so many topics is just really interesting. Like this short story that won him a Bram Stoker, where it's a werewolf that is addicted to it and is just like one more time, and it's basically an allegory for like whatever addiction you want to throw in there. But
that's so smart. And
his attitude's really wonderful because there's people online where you're like, is that really how they act? Are they really this nice? Josh is. Without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, everyone. I think I'm lucky because I've met a bunch of people who I've been friends with online, specifically a bunch of writers, and they're generally pretty much exactly what they put out there online. Like I just met in person Clay McLeod Chapman.
Oh yes,
he is exactly as exuberant and positive and nice as he is online in person. He's very. He
reminds me of Josh in many ways.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I've never met Josh in person. I've done a couple pieces of fan art for him, and he's always just like super pumped about it, which is always nice to see. I I would love to meet him in person, and Paul Tremblay, and a bunch of other people.
Sure. You know what? Speaking of Josh, it's funny because I don't know if I mentioned this on air, but I have a mini pig, and I don't know why, but for a while she, like, in her bed, she tears up the blankets, and this little hole, like, she would always have it where it would, like, wrap around her eyes, and it didn't hurt her or nothing. That she did it herself, and she wasn't trapped.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of that, and I said, hey, Josh, my big Greta's trying to bird box, and he got a kick out of that. I was like, oh, that's cool.
And then Pearl came out, right?
And I remember that when the first time we had him on for season 1, me and Brennan, our wives, made fun of us because that was the first time we were, like, fanboying over a guest.
Yeah.
And my wife doesn't give a shit about it. She's not impressed with people. So, like, no, in that regard.
Yeah.
And I just was like, it's Josh Ballerman,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Brennan, please hog some air, sir.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue in the vein of people who do not give a shit about the guests that we have on here. My younger sister she is an artist. She is a huge horror nerd. And she, for the most part, does not care, or at least likes to make me think she doesn't care about the people we get to talk to, except for Trevor Henderson. She was very, she was thrilled.
I did not see that coming.
Yeah, no, she thought it was so cool. She's been a fan of your art for a long time. So I said, is there anything you would like me to ask?
Yeah,
and
of course.
I don't know that she took this seriously, because her question was, how long is Longhorse?
Oh. He's infinite, man. The whole thing is that he does not ascribe to the spatial demands of this plane. So, like, whenever he disappears behind anything that blocks your viewpoint, he's just Schrodinger's horse. It could be as long as anything or nothing. It's just like he disappears. He can appear this way, that way. So there was no real answer to that question. Infinite is the answer. I guess
it's a much better answer than, like, 14 feet or something like that.
Like, that's Siren Head is 30 feet tall. Longhorse is infinite.
That's a great answer, and that's super creepy. And you know what, man? Like, I'm not, no shit. I had this dream, a recurring dream. There's only, like, 2 that I remember from my childhood. One of them was I was in my childhood best friend's backyard, and I mean, this is weird, but we're a group of weirdos, so I'm just gonna tell y'all. There was this ladder upright by itself with a guy standing on the top with a bucket on his head. He falls and he's freaking out and screaming, and there's this horse charging me. Like, I'm distracted by that ladder guy. Then I see this horse charging me, and it's got its teeth gnashing, trying to bite my head off, but it's pulled back by this chain that it's attached on the ground. And yeah, long horse kind of comes to mind now. That makes a lot, man. I won't be able to sleep alone in this hotel room tonight.
Man, horse teeth are so scary. Horses are so scary.
They're massive.
They're humongous. Yeah, they're one of those animals that feels like megafauna, like a moose. Like not as much as a moose, because those things are huge. But yeah, I don't like messing around with horses too much. Too afraid I'll take a finger off.
They could.
They could. Easily. I heard that the crushing strength to bite through a finger is the same as a carrot. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
I hope it's not. That's
anyway, yeah, isn't that scary?
I have a scar on my finger from being bit by a goat. I have to imagine that a horse would be a lot worse.
Oh my God, yeah, that'd be terrible.
Yeah. One of my friends got bit by a deer he was feeding, and it drew blood. So I've never seen that until that moment. I didn't know deer bite.
Yeah, deer are awful. I don't like deer.
Brennan, you want to dive into his book?
Yeah, sure.
So what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, okay. Well, it is a middle grade book. That is the title. I had a title in mind, and I don't think that we're going to end up going with that title. There was it's had like 3 titles so far. The title was written under was 13 Nightmares, which doesn't really ascribe to anything in the book. And then I had another title for it, and now we're still working on that. I just got back revisions from my editor from the first manuscript, and I'm actually going to meet with him tomorrow to talk about it. and start down that road of doing that. I'm just cleaning out kind of some of the commissions I have hanging over my head before that. But what can I say about it? It is about a small town in Ontario called Beacon Point, and it's very much in the mode of it, like those a bunch of kids dealing with monsters that are from the history of the town, as relayed through like kind of an Art Bell-esque paranormal radio DJ that are like the interludes in between chapters.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts.
Is your artwork in the interludes as well?
It's each chapter is going to have a black and white illustration, which I've not done yet. It's going to have like 30 something illustrations, but basically all these monsters from the town's history that may or may not have ever actually existed, but were relayed as spooky urban legends, start like picking these kids off one by one, and they have to figure out how to stop it and how it's tied to these spooky radio broadcasts. And so it's just packed with monsters. It's got like 8 or 9 different monsters, each one kind of going after a different kid. And I just was like, if it's bad, at least it has a bunch of cool monsters in it, and kids love monsters. And I love monsters, so I know that that's a good bedrock to build from, I guess. And yeah. So that's that, I guess. And we're just working up the manuscript to a point where it is good, I hope. And then I'm going to do a bunch of illustration work for it, and there will probably be a second one as well, at least. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you were coming up with the monsters for it, I wondered, did you? I've talked about my son on the program before. He's autistic and dyslexic, and one of the ways that we got him to really start reading was he would draw something before he would write about it. And I'm very curious if, when you went to write, did you sketch creatures before trying to describe them?
It's really weird because I kind of went. This is my first more of a full blown narrative writing project that I've done. A lot of it's been just kind of the flash fiction stuff paired with artwork before. And the way that I approach the flash fiction stuff and drawing the photos is that I will pick a photo first, not think about the monster at all, just paint it in what comes to my head first, things first, and then write the little piece of flash fiction about the finished image when it's all done without any pre-planning. And this was the opposite, where there was a ton of planning but no drawing, and then now I'm going to go and do the drawing at the end. So they're fully their first form. All the monsters was definitely just narrative first and writing it first. Now I'm going to visualize them and go back to that skill, I guess, after the writing is done. But there was like one key monster that I had in mind first of all, and then the others kind of came up situationally for kind of pairing each one with one of the kids in the group that are dealing with these different things. I guess I'll tell you what one of the monsters is. The main, like, kind of the cover monster is, should I say that? It's kind of a reveal. I can't really do it. It's some interesting deer. It's a herd of very interesting deer. Yeah. I don't want to spoil for that for anyone who listens to it, but it's some nasty deer.
I can't wait, man. So we've established that fuck deers.
I want to pause us there because you have some sort of deer monster. I mean, did you have a traumatic experience with deer at some point?
No, they just wig me out in a really weird way. More, like they're a prey animal, like cows and stuff. It's just they give off such a weird vibe. You hear all these weird stories, but they get all these bizarre, like, forest diseases and get like giant growths coming out of the side of their head. And science is just like, I don't know why they do that. They just do. Like I was reading the other day that they will exhibit this symptom where they'll just grow wounds that will bleed and then stop, and nobody knows why they do that at all. They just weird me out a lot. I don't know. They're just spooky in a way that certain other herd animals like that are not. I don't know what it is.
I didn't know some of that. No, I'm afraid of deer too.
Yeah, they're scary. And there's also, like, there's the cryptid of the not deer, which is like, a hunter in the woods will be like, come across a deer, and then something about it will be weird, and then it'll either like stand up on its hind legs and be extremely strange, or he'll notice it has eyes facing forward like a hunting predator or something like that, And
I got 2 random facts about deers. First off,
please.
And I'm reading this. I didn't know this because I'm just really, I'm not, smart with this shit, but It says the moose is one of the world's largest deer species. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're terrifying.
Moose are terrifying.
Moose are. We when we had. Oh wait, Brennan wasn't here for this one. When I had talked to Laird Barron last year.
Oh yeah, he knows about scary deer.
Yeah, he was talking about a moose charging him. Those motherfuckers. That you might as well just shit yourself because you're gonna do it when the moose kills you. But another thing is the water deer has fangs instead of antlers.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah,
vampire deer.
It looks like a Pokemon. If you find a photo of it, they just have these curved tusks kind of going out like that. It's really weird. But moose, you talk to people. I visited Newfoundland. Where they had tons of moose, and that is always a concern. And the way that you joke about it, like, oh, you ever see a moose? And they're like basically cross themselves, like you just mentioned Dracula. Like one of those things comes out in front of your car, you're done.
You're dead.
You're
exactly.
Done. You hit one of those with a car, the car is just gonna tin can around it. It's done.
Yeah.
I just realized
it's gonna walk off maybe with a slight
label. Yeah, it'll have a scar on its leg and just not even think twice about it.
I just realized
that you watch like The Mist, and there's that that giant walking monster. It's like that's not even a real monster. That's just a moose.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I just realized that the last guest, David Morrell, and you are both Canadians. That's pretty awesome. So, do you have any? Like, is there any Canadian artist or creator, or really anyone that inspires you that you wish more people knew about, and they could be famous or not famous? Put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot. Specifically Canadian artists.
That could be anyone. Fuck it.
Shit. No, you know what? I don't know anyone specifically Canadian.
Bryan Adams.
I mean, we got our boy Cronenberg. That's kind of our.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that's kind of a big one there.
I could give you some Canadian horror films, but I don't. Creators off the top of my head are just it's tough. I can barely remember movies and stuff and then books I like when I'm put on the spot in podcast. Never mind people.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Brennan, you take over, man. I'm drawing a blank. I'm having fart brain again.
Everyone's having fart brain.
It's a nightly occurrence for me.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious. You said that this is really your first experience, the book we were talking about.
Yeah.
With prose. What was the impetus made you say, I want to do this?
It's something I've always wanted to do. And a big thing about it was that I've always wanted to, we mentioned it earlier, but the Scholastic Book Fair. And especially since, a lot of my monsters, I did not expect them to become kind of kid favorites. They were never designed for kids. They were just something I thought was cool or scary or neat. And I just thought it'd be fun to, put it on social media. And then the response, like, especially from like 2019 onwards, when Siren Head kind of blew up and became this YouTube thing in a weird way, specifically for kids, that kind of took off in that direction. So once I saw like the impact that it was having on kids, like where I was getting emails all the time from people saying like, specifically like, and this always just like makes my fucking week is, I'll get emails from parents of autistic kids and kids struggling with disabilities who are like, our kid is nonverbal or our son is nonverbal. And, they haven't said or responded to stuff for a long time until they saw Siren Head or Cartoon Cat.
Shit, that's cool.
Yeah. And, now that that's all they'll talk about. And, that, I guess that combined with my love of like Goosebumps and all that stuff I remember from when I was a kid, kind of geared me up to be like, I want to have something at a Scholastic Book Fair that's like a, spooky spine tingling kind of book or whatnot. And then I was approached by Shelley Ramiro, who was the assistant editor at Scholastic. And she was exactly in the same headspace as me and was like, hey, you ever thought about writing something for kids? Because she had seen the huge response that kids had to the monsters. And I was like, absolutely, of course. And then from there, we started doing the pitch and putting it together. And, Shelley has since moved on from Scholastic into greener pastures. But that was the impetus for the whole project, I guess. And what kind of was the kick in the pants to move forward in that direction. And now I'm just like trying to actually make myself have a weekend to sit down and write a short story and just start writing. And it's so hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely
because I have ideas. It's just God. It's difficult when you're not used to it.
No, yeah, and that's a good point. And this ain't a knock on you specifically, but it's interesting because David Morrell, he has a wonderful nonfiction book that I only recently read called The Successful Novelist, and basically it talks about, you know, the ins and outs, the technicalities, the business aspect too. But one thing he does cover is how many, and I'm sure this is true with your artwork too.
Yeah.
Especially if you're really good at something, you're not going to notice how hard it is because you make it look so natural. And I don't tell people that I'm a podcaster or a writer unless we're in that, like, unless I feel like I'm around my people.
Yeah.
Like randomly yesterday, 2 days ago, there were these two ladies at this place talking about horror books, and I told them, but very rarely do I do that because I've had too many times where people would say like, oh, I've always wanted to write a book or this or that, or like I've had talks like that, and it's just like it's kind of insulting, and I don't want to get into it with a random person because it's like if I see your job, I could be like, yeah, I could do that. Like, no, you can't. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, of course, no. Like, it's a skill. It's a skill that's developed over many years of hard work, and it shouldn't be taken lightly in any way like that.
It's interesting because jobs like that, dream jobs that, you know, me, you, Brennan, and our peers want to do for a full time. It's weird how people say that's not a real job. I never got that from my parents, thankfully.
Yeah.
But I got it from, at the time, friends. When I was trying to pursue being an indie filmmaker. That was my first love. George Romero and Kevin Smith, like a combined of those two. And I mean, they kind of like not taking it serious, but talking shit behind, you know, you hear it's small circles, you hear, and
sucks.
And it's insane because like I heard this great talk from Stan Lee on an interview where he said art is as important as anything because like what does anyone do after they do their job or whatever? Sure, you can drink or whatever, but like art forms are probably one of the most important things. You got like Edgar Allan Poe did this prose story called oh man, I had that moment now. I dropped the ball. I don't remember what it's called. Shit.
It's all good. Message me after that. I'd like to read it.
Yeah. He had this prose poem where it was basically Eureka. That's it. We were talked about outer space, and at the time the science, you know, community was kind of poo-pooing that. And you have a lot of fiction that turns out to dictate what you do in our reality. I mean, look at Jules Verne. He's writing about space travel and underwater adventures far before, you know, we actually did that. So my whole point is art is, in my opinion, like the most important thing you could have, because with you, Trevor, you want to deal with kids. I want to deal with kids on some level too. And that's kind of like how you forever stay young, because their enthusiasm and hopefully non-corrupted souls are just beautiful. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but
I'm totally on the same page.
Or at least I know where I want to go with it. No, first of all, I want to throw out there, you know, that I hate that phrase, that's not a real job. I think that what that translates to
all of us have heard it a million times.
Oh, yeah, totally. But what it translates to is society, which, by the way, is top loaded with problems, doesn't value that as a job. And, you know, what is that? What does that mean? Society doesn't have its shit together. So why should I?
Oh, man, I'm going to spit that out.
But I mean, that is, you know, it doesn't value it, so it doesn't, you know, pay a living wage, if you will, or at least a survivable salary or anything like that, unless you know, boots to the ground, just absolutely kill it. Where I want to go with that is, you know, you've talked a few times already about kind of the notion of putting this book together to get it in a Scholastic book fair, to you know, get it in the hands of kids like, you know, like you, looking for that stuff. The fact that you've done Zoom calls with schools to inspire young artists, young creators. Now, beyond just being that excited kid at the Scholastic Book Fair, I'm wondering where does that notion come from? What makes you want to do that? Because that is a really cool trait, for lack of better words, is to want to connect with kids.
Well, I just thought it was so cool how I think the kids respond really well to stuff that doesn't talk down to them. And then me just doing this fun stuff for myself of doing these scary monsters, like putting it out there and then seeing that response and seeing kids respond to it in such a specific way. I guess it just, where am I going with this? It made me want to inspire kids, and it really helped me. Seeing that response made me want to keep doing it in the first place. And then it just the notion that whatever these kids are going to be making in like 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. If they keep drawing and they keep writing and they keep like ingesting like, my stuff and other current like horror stuff that's more geared for kids in a way that is palatable. I think that that's like the best possible legacy you could possibly have as a creative, is seeing the much cooler shit come out from what the seeds you helped water in whatever ways, with your own stuff. I think that's just the best. And I think that if I can do that by making a middle grade horror book that doesn't pull any punches and it's exactly as scary as the stuff I try and put out on social media for myself, but specifically for little kids, I think that'll be really cool. And I think kids will really respond to it in a way that they'll feel like they're not getting talked down to. It's something that is for kids, but also like has real stakes. I think stakes are so important in kids fiction. Stuff like Coraline and some of the Goosebumps, definitely for sure. I guess the rambling answer to that is just that I think that influencing current kids to do way cooler shit than me in the horror space, decades down the line, is like the best possible thing I could be doing.
And I think that, one thing you're doing well with your approach, aspiring middle grade authors need to know that kids can smell bullshit a mile away.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Do not try and, just from my limited experience and the stuff that I do for myself that has caught on with a lot of kids, I don't think that anything like that reaction would have happened if I was doing something. If I sat down and said like, this monster is going to be for kids, like it would have just been bullshit. It would have sucked, and no kids wouldn't have liked it, and they would have known it sucked, and it would have just bombed completely.
I'd argue that, I know it's not targeted for kids, but I'd argue that it is for kids. And here's the reason. Because Grimm's brothers, one of the oldest folklore creature story tellers, those were terrifying stories.
Yeah, they're rough. Yeah.
A lot of the Disney movies that are adapted from older tales, Aladdin or Cinderella or whatever else you want to say, in their current form, they're veiled to be for kids. But we got kids that they have parents that are divorced, parents that are dead, parents that are getting attacked by some Tarzan, I'm thinking of, by wildlife. You're not seeing it, but like,
yeah,
put the context clues together. Anyways, it's all pretty fucking horrible. And
yeah,
it's better to see that in fiction than it is in reality, because if you're filtered from all that,
yeah,
you're not going to know how the fuck to react when you're faced with some real monsters.
Yeah, it's like a test run for kids where they can experience a lot of similar, obviously heightened in a supernatural sense, depending on the story, but similar feelings, and then, come out the other side and it's just a book and you're good. Same with horror movies,
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to talk about your collaboration with Jed Shepard. How did you guys, did you meet on, he's such a nice guy. I just asked him I just said, hey, can you be on my podcast? And he said, yeah, like he had at that time, his movie was like the most successful, not even horror movie. It was just everywhere.
Movie, yeah.
I love Host, and I think it came out at the perfect time, height of the pandemic.
Dude, that mask scene creeps me the fuck out. And it's such a cheesy effect, but it's not.
The context, it works so well, right?
Yeah.
It is brilliant.
It's incredible, and it's a nod to Alice, Sweet Alice at the same time, and it's double cool because that movie rules and host rules, and the scare works perfectly well. But to answer your question, Jed is super nice. He's another person who, is a super cheerful, nice guy online, and then you meet him, and he's absolutely exactly like that. I've had more Zoom calls with Jed than probably anybody else because I designed a monster for his game Ghosts that is currently doing.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
No, it's not out there yet anywhere. It's just there's some trailers and stuff, but I
thought it was out. Okay.
No, I think it's been delayed slightly, but Ghosts has Alice Lowe of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place and a few other things in it, and it is kind of a big homage to Ghostwatch and a few other things. And it's a FMV horror game, full motion video horror game, where you're in the van at like the command center for like this shoddy late night horror ghost hunting show. So you're watching all the different monitors and switching between them while the actors who are investigating these ghosts supposedly are in this haunted house. So you have to watch what they're doing through the different things and then make sure that they don't get gotten by the ghost or whatever's happening. You have to keep the show going because if you fail, it'll go off the air. And then you also have to watch the van behind you because stuff might be happening in the van. And I designed a monster for it called the Long Lady. And yes, that's
the subway. She was on the subway, right? That picture, the Long Lady.
I don't know if there was one on the subway. We did like 3 or 4 drawn images of her, but we haven't revealed.
I'm thinking women on the train.
Oh yeah. That's a tall lady, but this lady's way taller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is a much taller woman.
The tall lady. I got you.
Yeah, but anyway, so I designed it. That's kind of where we met. Jed reached out and was just like, I'm a fan of your work, and I had just seen Host, so I was like, dude, I'm a huge fan of Host. And I had also seen his short film that I'm not sure if he directed or wrote called Salt. You should look that up. It is awesome. It's very good. But anyway, we were mutual fans of each other's stuff, and we quickly became friends online, just talking about found footage stuff. And I helped him I designed this monster for him, did a bunch of different rounds of sketches, and then he turned around and was like, oh, we're doing the monster practically for this game, and Jim Henson Studios is making it.
What?
So,
wow.
So they
did not know that.
Yeah, Jim Henson Studios made this giant puppet of this creature that sits on top of an actor's shoulders, and so it's really tall. And he's just been working on this game among a few other things. And then we were pitching a potential film version of the game at this kind of like a synergy thing at the same time. So I sat in with a lot of Zoom calls with him and different studio execs, just kind of like jumping in the middle of his pitch to talk about who I am and why it matters, of why I'm there in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, we're good friends, and we have a lot of projects on the back burner that hopefully will go forward in some way. I designed a monster for, God, I'm blanking on the name, Scare Package 2, which is he did a segment for, which is coming out I think pretty soon now. I'm not sure when, but we've just worked on a bunch of different stuff, and he's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Super nice guy. One of the few guests where I was just like almost too nervous to talk because it was him, and he surprised us with Haley. And Emma.
Cool.
I just it's really fucking cool because, like I said, George Romero and Kevin Smith have always been. They've been my biggest influences ever since I was a kid. Like Night of the Living Dead, Tom Savini's version was the first zombie movie I ever saw.
Yeah.
And I bring them up because I love interviews. I love behind the scenes and commentary. And you listen to the actors, everyone who works with those two guys or did with George, everyone loves them. And ever since I was a kid, I always said, like, especially with my dad saying, like, you remember your roots. It just, the thing I want to do and my role model in life all said the same thing. And now with Brendan and I's opportunity with the podcast to talk to, people like you or Jed or whoever, that's what you guys do. You do what we love horror too, but you guys are quite frankly, you're on a different level at this point. You are, man. Bottom is you are. Okay. Don't be modest, Canadian.
I literally just started doing like little photo manipulations in 2018 and it blew up in a way that I've not fully reckoned with. I'm still just some loser on Twitter who draws ghosts because I like ghosts. That's the extent of it.
Dude, if I had almost 1 million followers after a few years, I wouldn't understand it either. Okay,
I do not understand it.
I wouldn't either. But my whole point is it's really reassuring because, like we talked about before on the air, that we had Lansdale on, David Morrell, and even Peter Straub and Chuck Palahniuk, like the biggest name. Yeah, rest in peace. Like, he's such a sweet guy. But
amazing you had Peter Straub on. Holy hell!
I tweeted him. I don't know how. I forgot I tweeted him at some point. I'm not kidding, because like the shot in the dark, like he's not going to reply. But I bring him up because they are globally the hot. Like Peter's one of, in my opinion, on Mount Rushmore, but he's so down to earth, super laid back, and it's just affirming to know that there's no reason to be a dick. And more often than not, people are nice. There's sometimes when people have a little success and they're just like complete dicks, but for the most part, no.
I feel like it's like anything else, and those people, I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions, but my experience has been that people in the creative industries value that niceness, that people just being genuine and just being nice guys, nice people to work with. It seems to be like a currency that is most highly valued over literally anything else.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because of pretty much 9 times out of 10, we're putting, like when I started writing, I mentioned this a few episodes ago, I think, but I was nervous because like I was like, how far is too far out there? And they got some pretty dark ideas, and it was received pretty well. And once you are comfortable with knowing, like, I mean, there's exceptions to every rule, but once you know that you can pretty much write the darkest shit you can, and it's not people are embracing it because it's dark. It's we're vulnerable and we're putting our ideas out there, and there's no judgment for the most part. And that, I think, from what I've observed, that's my opinion on why horror people seem to be the most welcoming and non-judgmental. Yeah. Because when you strip away your armor, again, 9 times out of 10, you're seeing the real person. And if you're just as naked as them, like you're supposed to be in the same tribe.
Absolutely.
So I think it's special, man, because it's we talk to people all over the world, and it's not just like an American or North American thing. It's everywhere, and it's so cool to see that. Yeah,
and I think horror people, like people who are big fans of horror, I think that it's like a common language. You'll always have that to talk about with and be passionate about with somebody else who's like a big horror fan over anything else, any other like media or nerd shit or genre stuff, I guess.
And horror, like I said, I was big into trying to be an indie filmmaker when I was younger, and one of my mentor at the time, he basically said, you can do the shittiest horror movie. And he did one, I think it was in the 90s, called The Foods Have Eyes. It's just, man, it might be on YouTube. I'll have to look that up. But it was corny as fuck. But if it's horror, man, it's gonna have an audience. Like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes has 2. I'm only aware of one sequel. It's 2 movies, and it's still selling on DVD or streaming or whatever.
I think that if you put your heart, it's corny, but if you put your passion into it, it shows. Like it shows up in film, it shows up on the page. If you're enthusiastic about something, it's contagious. And but if you're making something to try and make money, it's going to show in that way as well. I think that if you're there, like just being genuine, I've seen stuff that is like one of my favorite things. I discovered this last Halloween. Is this 30-minute short called Halloween Party, and it's on YouTube in full, and it is literally just a 30-minute long slasher movie that a bunch of teenagers made, like actual real 80s teenagers made in like 85 or 86, and it's just them clearly having fun at a Halloween party and like making a movie out of it with all the bloopers and bad line reads you'd expect. There's a cut that cuts into the next scene in the middle of a toilet flush, which is incredible. And it's just it's one of my favorite things because it's like this time capsule of this very specific kind of kid in the 80s, and it doesn't exist anymore. And then it's also like a pretty decent slasher movie. Like the killer looks cool. He's got this weird skull mask on. At one point, all the kids watch Halloween on the TV, and completely they don't care about copyright. The Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween music plays over the opening credits. And it's just the genuine, the earnestness and the passion and just how genuine it is, like it oozes off of it. And, you know, obviously it's made by a bunch of 14, 15-year-olds in the 80s. So it's technically terrible, but it's incredible at the same time because of that passion.
That's
and I think
amazing.
that translates through. Yeah.
I want to hear, because this is a Halloween special, so we should mention a little bit more.
I made a list.
True.
Yeah, no, I asked Trevor, so it wasn't just like, hey, on the spot. Yeah. I just want to start out with, what do you want to talk about Halloween-wise?
Okay, so I got to do movies first, because there are some things that I have to watch every single Halloween. And that is, I'll start with the one most people have seen, which is Trick or Treat, which is just Halloween in a movie. Everyone needs to watch that over Halloween. It's a horror anthology, which, you know, automatically they're the best. Halloween anthologies or horror anthologies are incredible, but it is the most Halloweeny a movie can get, I think. And everyone should watch that. I'm going to watch it in the week leading up. But the next two are a little more underseen. One of my favorite movies is this really weird movie from the 80s called Lady in White. Have you guys seen Lady in White?
No, Lady in Black.
Lady in Black is a different thing. But Lady in White is this very it's structured like a novel. It's a longer movie, especially if you can get the director's cut. And it's basically about this guy coming back to his hometown and remembering this one Halloween he had where when he was a kid with this big Italian family in the small town, he ends up getting locked in this coat room after class, this amazing scene with this classroom all decked out in Halloween decorations where he's reading his first like horror short story he wrote. He ends up getting locked in this coat room overnight by a bunch of bullies. And then he sees the ghost of a murdered girl, like recreating the steps where she was strangled in this coat room. So it goes from a family friendly thing to a very like adult thing very quickly. Like the tonal whiplash in this movie is wild. And I think that might be why it's kind of like has mixed reviews, where it'll go from like super family, like small town, like Halloween vibes, to like, here's the ghost of a murdered girl walking through the night of her murder again. So you see her getting strangled in midair because it's just the ghost, not the killer.
Holy shit. Oh, Jed probably wrote that. He loves the midair scenes.
Yeah.
Levitation scenes.
But then as the kid is seeing this happen, the actual killer shows up again because he's haunted by the night when the kid was killed. So it becomes this whole murder mystery thing where he's trying to figure out who killed this little girl. He keeps seeing the ghost at the same time as it's wrapped up in this nostalgia of this like small town Halloween. It's incredible. It's such a weird, cool movie. There's nothing else like exactly like it. You watch it.
Watch that.
It's so good. It's so good. Scream Factory had a Blu-ray. It's totally out of print now. I would love to have a copy personally. I got to see it in the theater a couple of years back on Halloween, and it's amazing. Some of the tonal stuff doesn't work, frankly. There's a whole subplot because it's set during the 60s with this janitor that they pin the murders on. And it's like a racial element, and it's a little tone deaf, and its inclusion is a little strange. But the stuff that does work is so good. It feels like it's the very big Bradbury October Country vibes through the whole movie.
That's pretty cool, man.
It's really, really good. I absolutely recommend it. And then the one movie I try and watch every single Halloween is Ghost Watch, which is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen still to this day. Have either of you guys seen Ghost Watch?
No.
I've seen enough on YouTube to get the best parts, but it's out of print, isn't it? Hard to get.
It just got a Blu-ray release. It's it's got delayed till November, which is just the biggest crime. But there's a beautiful Blu-ray coming out now, finally, with a whole big cardboard slipcase and the liner notes and all this stuff. It fully deserves it, and I highly recommend you watch the whole thing because it's a masterclass in just amping tension. It starts out very cheesy because the movie it's a found footage movie. It's my favorite found footage movie. And it premiered in 92 or 3 or 4, somewhere around there on the BBC. And everyone just thought it was a real actual like ghost, like a jokey like ghost hunt thing, because the entire cast are TV hosts from the time. So they're all recognizable faces, like newscasters and stuff. And the whole crux of it is that, they're going to do like a spooky, like we're going to investigate this suburban home where there's supposed to be a poltergeist called Mr. Pipes. And it starts out very, very cheesy, very, very languidly paced. But God, it just ramps up. And before you know it, stuff is happening and it's getting more and more real. And it is so frightening by the end. It is like monumentally scary by the end.
Sold me on 2 movies I've never heard of before.
Yeah. And if you don't watch the early part, it's nowhere near as effective because it's that slow build. And when it came out, what happened was the rumors, as it were, when it came out was that they had a whole disclaimer at the front of the broadcast saying like, this is all fiction. None of this is real. This is a Halloween joke. But right before the premiere happened, there was a sports game on, and the sports game ran long, and it went over the warning by about 5-10 minutes, and they just dropped right into the broadcast. So everyone tuning in, they literally War of the Worlds did, and it scared the shit out of them. It scared the shit out of England. There were complaints across the country. They've only showed it once on TV ever, and then it was put in the vault. They never showed it again on TV because it was such a uproar. And there's even maybe an urban legend, maybe true, that someone saw it and thought it was real and killed themselves, hung themselves after the broadcast. I don't know how true that is, but it is an exceptionally scary film. It's probably like the pinnacle, one of the pinnacles of found footage in general. And if you want to see it, it's usually on YouTube in full, or I think if not there, it's probably on Internet Archive while that's still up. There's ways of getting it for sure, until the very nice Blu-ray comes out next month. So those are the top 3. Excuse me, Halloween movies. I try and sneak in Something Wicked This Way Comes. Excuse me, as well, but those are the 3 I can't miss.
Mine. My time to watch movies is limited right now. I got a young kid, and so I typically go with the younger stuff. Of
course.
I really love Hocus Pocus, and
it's really good.
I know it's all over the place, but I really love the second one too, and I thought it had a lot of heart.
I still haven't seen that one. I've heard some dour things about it, but I just saw the first one for the first time last year, I think, or the year before, with some friends, and I thought it was great. I don't know, really fun.
Yeah, I mean, just to throw this out there, I'm not really a film critic. Like I don't understand the whole point of getting all pissed off with entertainment. And
I like most things, honestly. I like everything. Yeah.
Another one is Halloween Town because it's from my childhood, and I thought it was just super fun. And A Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare Before Christmas is another one.
I need to see Halloween Town, but Nightmare Before Christmas is great. You know what is going to go? You know what, a new movie that's going to get thrown in with those in the coming years? Right now, everyone's shitting on it because it's very fun to shit on, but it's going to be a classic. You mark my words. Is Rob Zombie's Monsters?
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. And you know what?
Everyone is shitting on that. You're absolutely right.
It's a hoot. It's great. It's like getting drunk in a Spirit Halloween. It's amazing.
Which will be a movie. Spirit Halloween.
I've seen the trailer and I like that comparison.
Let me tell you, that trailer is such a disservice to that movie. The trailer looks like dog shit. The trailer makes it look like a Funny or Die sketch. But it does. When you sit down and actually watch that movie, it's gorgeous. Like they did, like it obviously wasn't finished when they did the trailer because it looks unfinished. The finished film has like this tactileness to it. There's a grain to it, and the colors all pop. And it's just like everything's in creep show lighting. It just it's so much fun. I sat there and drank a bottle of wine and watched it, and I had like a hoot. I thought it was great.
That sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's great, and I think that people are gonna shit on it now, which they're doing because it's easy pickings. It's Rob Zombie doing something he loves and just saying fuck it. I want to do this for me. Who gives a shit what you say?
That's a good point too, because I have seen like his wife's always in it. Like, you know what?
He loves his wife. Holy shit! Wow, kill the guy, right?
He had.
Wow, what
Sid
an
Hagen,
asshole!
Yeah, Sid Haig was in a bunch. He's got a lot, like Michael Berry's in quite a few.
The guy loves the old horror stuff, and he loves his wife, and he loves his friend, and he has the power to put them in goofy horror movies that he makes.
I would do that.
Yeah, anybody would, and everyone's just taking the opportunity to take a big dump on his chest about it. Like Christ, and the whole movie, like you watch The Munsters, it's about a big idiot monster who falls in love with a hot lady who he loves forever, and it's just like it's his marriage. It's his marriage told through the Munsters.
I mean, I know you know this, Trevor, but Hot Iron and Cold Blood, like Brennan's in it, and he's one of my best friends. But it's not just like, and there's other people in there.
Nepotism.
There's other people that are friends of mine or who I look up to, but like that's not the only qualification. They have to, and I'm certain of this with Rob Zombie. I don't know him, never talked to him, but they have to have a certain quality and ability to pull off a job. And in my case, I feel like it's true, and I'm damn sure that Rob Zombie's not going like, she's not a good actress, but she might be one of the leads in all my movies. You know,
the thing is too, she's really put in the work, and she's a lot better in this most recent film, and especially I really like Lords of Salem a lot, and I think she's honestly good in that. But everyone in this movie gets the assignment, understands completely what they're doing, and I think she does really good work in it. I think she's a good actor in it.
I can see that.
Some of the earlier films, I totally get that. I get that idea. But I think that if someone works at it and it's clear they're like making strides to be better, and you can see that on the film. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Martin Scorsese does it too. Everyone does it, because if you let's say we just have this one life, you're doing what you love, you have family or friends that love it too, and they're good at it, and they're actually gonna give a fuck, like why would you not take that? Like, dude, I've seen last year or earlier, I can't remember, there were people online giving Joe Lansdale shit about like his kids inheriting his money because they didn't earn it, and I just
what the fuck?
First off, good luck saying that to the guy's face. He'll kill you in a second. Yeah. Secondly, he's the dad. Why wouldn't he give?
Isn't that the whole point of inheritance? It's in the word, is that they inherit it. It's the whole point of the thing.
It sounds like a dumbass dream I had, but I saw it, and
people are just saying anything out there these days.
It doesn't
to
make
get a
sense.
reaction. Yeah,
it's the Wild West. It's horrible. It's just eating holes in everyone's brains being online for 3 years straight. It's terrible.
Brennan, go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, I got a segue there. I'm full of them tonight. I want to talk about using social media the right way. Trevor, you've built up a very, very big platform, a very big following, and one thing I think is extremely commendable about it is you use it to shout out horror creators,
I love
big
it.
and small.
It's the best part of it. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm going to ask you kind of a big unfair question, but I want to hear your opinion on the current state of horror.
Oh,
books, movies, whatever.
I think we're in I just spent 5 minutes talking about how much I love the Munsters, so I'm a pretty easy sell. But I think we're in a golden age in pretty much every avenue. Games, books especially. Holy shit! I'm gonna be buried in all the books, the horror books I bought this year alone. That I can't
hear
you. Yeah, it's incredible. But movies especially, I feel like this year was just like one for the books. Like, you look at like 1982 and like how many just utter classics came out all in that 1 year. I think that 2020.
I thought you meant the book.
Oh no, sorry. The year for movies, because you had you had a bunch of great stuff come all at once. But like, if Nope alone came out this year for horror films, that'd be enough. That, because I think that one jumped right into my top 10 of all time.
Oh, man, I want to see that so damn bad.
It's so good. I mean, I loved Us and I loved Get Out. I like Get Out a lot. I loved Us, but Nope is just like another level. It's so good. But
I would want Jordan Peele on, because I've been a fan of him since I've been a kid with Mad TV.
Yeah.
And I know, and I've heard him in an interview saying that he's always wanted to do horror, but the comedy thing kind of was like, how he would get his foot into the position he's in now.
He did it, yeah.
And I think he's fucking killing it, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I hope he just, you see a lot of directors and artists will get like big and then they'll kind of use it as a jumping off point. And you'll see them like do, superhero movies, that kind of thing. I really want Jordan Peele to just keep pumping out these original horror movies, at least a couple more, because they're such a gift. And Nope is, oh my God, it's so good.
I like how this is. I just got to put this out there. This is probably going to sound like I'm pandering. I'm not, but I really do love how he focuses on black horror, because he could take quote unquote the easy way out, but he just does what he wants. Yeah, and it shows. It's his. And again, David Morrell's the successful novelist talks about, like, don't be an imitator. The only way you're going to stick out is being yourself. Like, he's doing what he wants, and it's so creepy, the shit he does.
Yeah, he obviously got to a point, with the comedy and establishing himself, and then what a clockwork script he had for Get Out. It's pitch perfect, and how well that movie did. He's obviously built himself up to this position where he can do these original projects that are fully him, and he has become the name that is drawing people, and not just whatever the movie is doesn't really matter. Like it's his name that's bringing people in now.
And I love how sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I love how people were, I don't know who exactly it was, but at one point he had to make it very clear, this is not a thriller, this is not whatever, this is horror. I'm creating horror movies. Like, he's one of us, man.
Yeah, you see people like they'll hedge their bets and say like it's a thriller or this or that. Like, horror is a dirty word in a lot of circumstances, because it has all these connotations with a lot of people who are not really, involved in that whole thing. So yeah, it's lovely seeing him do that. And Nope is amazing. Like I was saying, if Nope was the only horror movie that came out this year, that'd be amazing. But we had Barbarian, another horror movie from a comedian.
Speaking of tall women.
Yeah. No spoilers. But and Smile was extremely solid. There's just been a ton of really, really good stuff. I've had a great time this year. And
I was, before I forget, if it was like straight up like horror movies, the three I would pick, there's two that I grew up with that I just can't get. I can't stop watching it. One of my favorites is the remake of House on Haunted Hill with Geoffrey Rush.
The Dark Castle one, the 90s one. Yeah.
1999 remake, man. I just love that movie so much. It's super creepy still to this day. And then 13 Ghosts, which
I was going to say 13 Ghosts would be mine from that company.
Yeah, that too. And then the other one would be the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead. You got Bill Moseley, you got Tony Todd, you got it being run by Tom Savini. I mean,
that one does not get the appropriate praise it deserves. I think the 90s as a whole kind of gets swept aside as a bad time for horror.
It's got so many good choices, though.
It's got, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. It's got Candyman. It's got Exorcist 3, which is one of the greatest movies, period, ever made. Not even a horror.
Legion.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, it's such a good movie.
It is a good movie.
Yeah, 90s horror is supremely underrated.
Plus Scream 1 and 2. I can't remember 3. I can't remember if I like the third one or not.
I like a lot of the third one, I think, but it's nowhere near the first two. But it's okay.
So for lack of knowing this, is Halloween a big thing now in Canada? What was it when you were younger?
I think it's a little bit less. So at least where I'm living, I think. It was huge when I was a kid because I was out in the suburbs. I was in a small town. I was in Oshawa, which is this really rinky-dink little town outside of Toronto. And now I've been in Toronto, obviously, like the last 16 or 17 years around that. And it's less prevalent in the big city because parents don't want to bring their kids out. If you're living on a major intersection, which I was for like the last 10 years, you won't see anybody. And I've just moved into a side street, so I'm like really psyched to like maybe go get the big home hardware skeleton, the big 12-foot skeleton.
I've seen those. Those are so cool.
Yeah. Decorate everything and try and get some trick-or-treaters coming by. But excuse me. I would say that it is still, in the right areas, still quite a big thing.
That's really neat. You know, I just wanted to mention, I thought you would find this neat too, is Spirit Halloween. I just found out like a month ago that it started in the town that's right next to where I live in New Jersey. It started in the 80s. And I passed by this building. I told my wife, and she's like, "You drive by the building every day, the headquarters." I'm like, I just thought that was kind of like a building. I didn't think it was the headquarters of where it all began.
Oh, they got all kinds of cool, like one-off Halloween, like the prototypes. It's where they have them in the basement, like testing them out. You got to get in there.
I got to break in. I work for the county, so that'll be my bullshit. I had a boss that said, basically with parking, he doesn't work there anymore, so I feel okay to say this, but he said that I could park somewhere that was not a parking spot on Main Street. He's like, I said, what about the cops? He goes, oh, we work for the county. I just think that's such a stupid idea, but in this case, I'm going to use that for an excuse.
Just get a U-Haul and pull up there and just unload all their, weird scarecrows and giant skeletons and whatnot. I'd love that.
Trevor Henderson told me to do it. Who?
The
scary, creepy siren head guy.
We never talked about it. It's fine.
Brandon, go ahead, buddy.
All right, so I want to make sure we squeeze in a couple questions that got posted on Twitter. So first one is from John Durgan. He just released his debut novel, The Cursed Among Us. It's really, really great. I definitely
heard
recommend.
Of that.
It's awesome, man. You'd love it. You'd love it. It's
cool.
got that kind of like small town.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I always compare small town stuff to Salem's Lot, but it does do small town group of kids cool. very well.
I'm writing that down. Okay, cool.
So John says he wants to know, do you come up with folklore for your creations before drawing them to help inspire their appearance? He also says that his son regularly convinces his daughter that cell towers and telephone poles are spawned from Siren Head, which he finds that hysterical, and he wants to know if that makes him a bad dad. Yes, it does, John. Sorry. So the real question is folklore for your creations.
Firstly, he should say that the cell towers and telephone poles aren't spawned from Siren Head. They're Siren Heads to be, and that'll keep the kids away from them. But to answer,
that's so fucking creepy, man.
Yeah, you never know, right? Which one's gonna pop up?
They'll look the same.
No, I do not do that. I've never done that. I always start from a photo. I have like a big folder of photos people have kindly donated through social media or other places on my computer. So I'll pick a photo, and then on the spot, without any pre-sketching or any kind of pre-visualization, I'll just draw something in there and kind of let it form as it does, I guess, and maybe throw it out a couple times until I get something I like there. Do all the effects, make it fit, shadow, lighting, all that, and then when that's done, then I'll write up a prompt, which is often incredibly vague on purpose, just kind of to be spooky. And only then, once I've drawn that one character a couple times and kind of spitballed it, then the connective tissue, like the lore, might build up a little bit. And it really depends on which creature. Like some of them have pretty extensive lore, and others just I wanted to get a feeling across or a specific mood, even. I don't know. So there's like nothing there really. So it all depends. And Siren Head has a decent amount of lore, and some of the other more popular ones, because they've been around longest and been more popular, I guess. So necessity has had to be like that. I think about it a little more, I guess.
On YouTube, there is a short called Siren Head versus the creatures from that movie, the silent monster movie. A Quiet Place, that's it.
Oh, really? Okay. It's
got over 5 million views, man.
Yeah, I've never put a single thing on YouTube. Everything that's on YouTube is just fan stuff. There's some wild shit. If you search Siren Head on YouTube, it's been like garbled up by those algorithms that just make weird computer content for children. Those things are real evil. I don't like those at all. They feel strongly evil.
Oh, I thought you were making a joke.
No,
like a dick.
no, not at all. No, I mean, you see these weird videos where just the Hulk is fighting Spider-Man is fighting Siren Head for kids, and they're just nightmares. I don't like them at all.
That's weird. Wasn't Siren Head wasn't Siren Head in Fallout 3?
Yeah. He was
I saw him in that, man. I knew that before I even knew you. Wow. That's weird.
Someone made a mod that happened. That was like one of like 3 or 4 things that happened right when Siren Head blew up, and they all happened within the same week, and that's why he kind of became viral in whatever ways that he became viral. But yeah, he popped up in Fallout. They never asked me about that, but still.
Man, holy shit. I'm not kidding, man. I didn't know that until I just knew we were talking about it, but I don't play video games. I got an N64, an NES, and a Wii. I barely play them anymore because I dedicate my time to the creative time to the podcast and my own writing. But my point is when I was playing a whole lot, when I played Fallout, I thought it was Fallout 3, whatever the fuck one it was. Yeah, that was some time ago.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah,
that was some time ago, man, and that creeps me out. Holy shit!
Yeah, that was 2018, I think.
This is like the time that I realized that Joe Lansdale, I've been a fan of him since I was a kid because of Batman, animated Batman scripts that he wrote and some other animated stuff.
Nice.
Wow. So, okay, that's fucking cool. I've been a fan of your work longer than I knew.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I can't believe that that character has been around for 4 years in all these weird ways.
I can't get over it because I was playing that in the daytime. And Fallout is such a fun game, but boy, that stood out.
Yeah.
Brendan, you got another question from Brian McCauley?
Yeah, one more. This is from Brian McCauley. He wrote a book called Curse of the Reaper, which I think came out about a week ago.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Can you share about a mentor who gave you early encouragement at a pivotal stage of your journey into the arts?
I mean, that's got to be just my dad. Honestly, he completely propelled me and directed me for all the horror stuff that I love now in every possible way. Yeah, besides that, I've had, all my university teachers were just kind of like, they didn't know what the hell I was doing with any of this stuff. So none of those guys, but I think I would say my dad early, and then just when I started doing horror art on social media, on Twitter, just the friends that I've made through other horror artists have been really inspirational and motivational to keep going.
Is there any, this might be an unfair question, is there any artist that you would particularly like to shout out? Because for me, I'll talk about this guy all day. Just like I love your artwork, Justin T. Coons is just
I know him.
Incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he's really good. There are so many. Off the top of my head, there's an artist called Plastaboo. I don't know his actual name, but you should look up his stuff. Holy shit. Plastaboo, like plastic. It's incredible and totally unique style. And I remember that was someone I found really early and really responded to. There's an artist who goes by JRG Drawing, I believe. JRG Drawing or JRG Art, who does really beautiful, really moody, dark horror art. And probably one of the most inspirational artists that I came across online is a guy who goes by Cinema Mind David, all one word.
Did you say cinema or cinnamon?
Yeah, cinema, like the film. Cinema Mind David. His name is David Ramiro, and he is incredibly talented. It's ridiculous. He'll just pump out full animations.
Really?
He's never on social media. You won't see him talking or talking about movies or anything. And he'll just log on once every 2 months and drop a pile of the best art you've ever seen, horror art, and then just disappear again. He's full animated movies and concept art pieces. Incredible.
I'll tell you another one that got me when I was a kid, who I still think is incredibly unique and hits every creepy, eerie spot, and that's David Finch, who he's probably most notably known for Salad Fingers, but does a lot more than that. Last I knew, he was trying to work on this feature called The Man in the Prairie or some.
I know of it. I think, yeah.
I just want that movie because I tried to get him on the show the first season or whatever. He's like, "Oh, send me some links," and I never heard back from him.
Oh no! I hope he circles back on that.
Oh man, I'd love to pick his brain. He's. I see some interviews. He's really. I can't tell if he's playing a character or not. But either way, I want to talk to him.
I wouldn't put it past him. It really seems like his vibe to put on a little bit of a persona.
Out of the blue, but it reminded me of this time when I worked at a local grocery store in Massachusetts called Roach Brothers. And I was talking to a friend that worked in Mansfield's Roach Brothers. And that's right in the same town. That's where Steve Carell and Steven Tyler are from, right, Brennan? Or is that Mansfield?
I had no idea that Steve Carell was from Mansfield or even that area.
He's from Massachusetts.
You could be right. Yeah.
It's one of those towns that starts with an M. I think it's Mansfield. I might be mixing up with one that's nearby. Anyways, the point is my friend he was working at the store and he saw Steven Tyler come in that area, which he did sometimes. And he just walked one way and his girlfriend or whatever walked the other way. To get her attention, he just started making these weird bird sounds. And I go, whoa, what's up with that, man? He goes, I'm not sure, but when you're at that level, you could just probably do whatever the fuck you want. And you can just do it for your own entertainment. I'm like, that's funny as hell.
Yeah. I mean, at worst, you have a story about Steven Tyler making bird noises. He's just dropping stories for everybody as he goes.
And I know that I don't know if they got Red Robin's up there, just a burger restaurant, but I know he in Foxborough, right next to in the area of the New England Patriots Stadium, they got all these restaurants, and he just hung out one night. He was there just with a harmonica playing, and I just can't even imagine seeing. Like, I love Steven Tyler. I'm a fan of Aerosmith, so I couldn't imagine just a musician that you
stumbling
like.
upon him. Yeah,
you don't have to pay for it, just for the burger and beer or whatever.
Yeah. God, yeah.
Brennan, do you want to go to the outro questions?
Sure. Fun story. My my best friend growing up, his mom, Aerosmith, played at her graduation before they were like big.
Nice.
Wow, that's amazing.
So what are we talking about, like 78?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'm not going to guess his mom's age. That would be rude.
Yeah, don't say that on air.
Yeah.
So, Trevor, what are you currently reading? I know it's probably like a cart full.
Yeah, I have a literal, I don't know if you can actually see it over, where is it? Oh, no, I can't show you. It's over there. I have a whole library cart just absolutely like loaded to the gills with stuff. Right now I'm reading, it's right here. Hold on. Reading Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge, and it is incredible. And I just...
the cover.
Yeah, the cover is amazing. And I just thought today a few things. Other Terrors anthology. I got this arc from Philip Francasi.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only read
you'll like that one.
I've only read Sakalina by him, but I loved it so much. I've got the Alan Moore book right now.
Cool.
Yeah. Just stacks and stacks. I wanted a physical copy of this because it's a classic. Greener Pastures.
Yeah.
So good. And then I got this folk horror collection, Damnable Tales, which is really good too.
Holy shit, that's a thick book.
I know. This is just the top of my cart. But probably after Dark Harvest, I'll read Anybody Home because I really want to read that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah, no, nice.
Well, I mean, it's not like
I was going to say fun is a weird way to put it.
Yeah, it's a weird book. I feel like Michael would be okay with that, but he'd be like, I don't think that's the right word.
Yeah.
Brendan, what are you currently reading?
I'm about halfway through. Friend of the show, John Lynch, is putting out his debut novel, The Warrior Retreat. And it's really cool so far. John was a Marine and served in... Oh crap! I'm gonna get it wrong, but I think he served in Iraq.
Yeah, he would be. He'd probably be too young for Afghanistan.
Yeah, and so he writes kind of this mixture of military action horror and extreme horror. Yeah, and it starts out first third of the book or so is. I hate to call it straightforward, but like it's certainly what you would expect from military horror, but with this supernatural, this subtle supernatural thread running through it. But then, once that third of the book is over, it goes a little deeper into, okay, now this unit, and I won't spoil, what goes on, but this unit is back and they're dealing with the aftermath of war. And again, that like subtle supernatural thread. It's very interesting. It's not,
that sounds great.
You throw out military horror and it's like, okay, I know what I'm getting. And this is kind of saying,
maybe
no,
not.
you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you don't. Not quite. And I am so excited to talk about this book. Midas by Tyler Jones. This is coming out from Earthling next Halloween. And
shit, really? I didn't know it was that far away.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And I would be shocked if by next Halloween you didn't also have information, because that's going to be a limited hardcover release. I would be shocked if by the time that comes out from Earthling, you don't have information about another publisher it's lined up with, because this is a fantastic book. I'm about 100 pages into it, and it's hard to describe, but it's got this kind of like contemplative, bleak, almost Cormac McCarthy quality to it. Ooh. But it moves. It's got short chapters. It's very, very hard to put down. It's, when I write a book with short chapters, they've got this like bang you over the head, not subtle cliffhangers to them.
Yeah.
And this is, instead of like the entire string section going, boom, and like leaving you on that note, this is like a subtle piano melody at the end that wants you to just take on that next chapter. I love it, and I cannot wait to just dive into the rest of it.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it does.
And I didn't even tell you what it's about, so
let's
just leave it at that.
I'll be looking up that afterwards.
So just to kind of throw this back to Laura, their first book, their debut, Inside Out. I read it already. I think I finished it last week.
I can't wait to read that. I have it waiting for me. It's part of a book subscription I have at a horror bookstore in Toronto, but I cannot wait to pick it up. Yeah.
I just want to
give that bookstore a shout out, because they're doing some awesome things.
Yeah. So that is A Little Ghosts Books in Toronto.
Such a cool title, man.
They are already indispensable. They are on Twitter, I think, as Little Ghosts. But if you search around, you can find, just search Little Ghost Books, and they do a subscription service that you can hop on, and you get 2 books, I think, a soft cover and a hardcover, and then a bunch of stickers and cool extra items, bookmarks and stuff every month. And then you can just walk down and pick them up and whatever else you want to throw on. And this month coming, or no, maybe it's October. Yeah, it's October. Laura's book, Inside Out, is one of the 2 books. And that's awesome. Cannot wait to read it. I have an illustration, especially goopy illustration in that book for one of the stories. I was really happy to be asked to do that. And
I loved it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I can't wait to read it. Looks great.
And I think you'll dig the other illustrations in there. They really add a lot to it.
I know that Jonathan LaMancha does an illustration for it, and his work is amazing. He does this ultra detailed like line work. You've probably seen it from me retweeting it. He also did the cover for another book I'm really excited to read called Crom Croc. Have you heard of that one?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. From Tenebris.
Tenebris, yeah. That looks incredible, but it's the same sort of kind of illustration style, where it's just the details and just horrible flesh and gristle and teeth, but just like the most minute detail you've ever seen in your life. His style is amazing.
That does sound amazing. Isn't Alex one of the ones that run?
Yeah, Alex and Matt Blairstone. Alex Woodrow and Matt Blairstone do Tenebris.
But she's from Canada, isn't she?
Oh, she's from Romania.
Oh shit. Not even close. Not even on the same continent. So moving on. What am I reading?
Yeah.
I'm jumping around all over the place, man.
I do that a lot. Yeah.
I'm actually not done, but I'm finishing up The Successful Novelist by David Morrell. Luckily got through a majority of it before last night's episode. Also on audio, Blood Meridian.
Oh, nice.
It's my first Cormac McCarthy, and it's super fucking weird, and I knew that going in.
Yeah.
There's this one book by just like Lore, another non-binary author. It is called The Real J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh, interesting.
It's out of focus, but
I got it.
It's by Jesse Zander, and they're just I believe it's an anthropologist. So they're looking through the lens of anthropy of Middle Earth. And it's just a really interesting way to approach that world. Also, I'm going to be diving into to prep for Chuck Wendig in 2 episodes, Wayward and Wanderers. They are massive books. So Brennan,
I was going to say, good luck. I'm 250 pages into Wayward, and I'm barely a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, I want to read those, but then every time I see them, it's like a doorstop.
They're very intimidating.
I don't have the time.
They could be used as a weapon. We know
you
that.
could. Yeah. Bring me the novellas, the slim little volumes I can punch out and then feel good about reading a book and finishing it.
Those books are fucking big, man. They can compete with Peter Straub's, but
yeah.
Which is interesting because Straub did say that his favorite book that he ever wrote was The Throat, and his publisher had told him that that came out in, I want to say the 80s, but I could be off a few years.
I feel like it. Yeah.
His publisher told him that the length of the book is proportional to how many people are actually going to be interested in it, meaning that his very long books, very thick books are not going to do well sales-wise. But then I look at people like Chuck Wendig, and I'm like, he's doing pretty good.
Doing well. Yep.
Sir, where can people follow you? Because obviously no one knows where to follow you, right? Because there's only a few 100,000 people following you.
Somehow, yeah, that is true. If you want just my art, then Instagram is the best place. I post any notable big projects, but that's just a streamlined art feed.
Sure.
My Instagram is Trevor Henderson, all one word. But if you want my art plus all the retweets of people that I like and whatever bullshit I happen to be reading or watching or playing at that time, then you want to follow me on Twitter, and my Twitter is Slimy Swamp Ghost, all one word.
Why'd you pick that name?
I don't know. I think I needed a name that was like catchy in a specific way, and that was not taken. And I'm just happy that I'm still pretty okay with it now, like fucking 10 years on or whatever it is. But yeah, it's kind of become my weird brand on there, so it's sticking around. But yeah, Slimy Swamp Ghost on Twitter.
And if you switched it to @Trevor Henderson, somebody else would snatch up Slimy Swamp Ghost, and you'd miss it.
Yeah,
you'd miss it.
I would immediately miss it. I can't ever leave it behind. Yeah.
And if you're looking for us at Headspace, it's really anywhere you can find our show: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts, Twitter. Just look at Dead Headspace. Except for Twitter, there's an underscore between Dead and Headspace because some asshole that hasn't used it since 2013 took that name. Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
Me?
Yes, sir. Do you have any?
No, I don't think so. Just that this was super fun, and I'm happy you asked me on. And yeah, you guys are great.
Thanks, man. You too. And like I said, about your Scholastic book, we would love to promote that, man, when you're ready.
As soon as I have something that is in any way readable, I will make sure that it ends up in your inbox.
Amazing.
Hopefully with some illustration work on there too.
Brennan, final thoughts, sir.
Obviously, we thank you for your time. This was a lot of fun, and I just want to double down on how appreciated it is. You kind of sharing what you're reading, what you're watching, and really promoting a lot of indie authors. The one that always comes to mind, not that Haley Piper needs any help getting her name out there now, but I think of, Benny Rose, and you reading that book, connecting with it and saying, here's what Benny looks like. That's always something that's going to stick with me because, she's always been a great writer, but she didn't always quite have the reach that she has right this minute. And
oh my God,
for you to
so well
blow her
deserved.
up and so many other authors that have, written books that you connected with.
Yeah, I have to read more, and B, I have to do more fan art for books because I love seeing fan art for books. And it's of the various, games, movies that gets fan art, you don't see horror fiction getting so much, and it's so well deserved. I got to do more of that. I love doing that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
My final thoughts are, first off, just gonna say one of my best friends ever, Mason. I know he'll appreciate it because I texted him a picture of all three of us in the beginning, and he said that he's fanboying. So I know that he'll appreciate it, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I just, man, I was like kind of nervous tweeting you in the first place, but
No.
I genuinely, I don't know who's gonna reply.
Yeah.
I can't gauge this shit. So I appreciate you being so kind-hearted, and just we've had great conversations, man. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is so fun. And yeah, I find like you just gotta shoot your shot, and I think 99% of the time it's just someone checking their inbox and being like, yeah, sure, this sounds cool. It's never.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Next year sometime it'd be real cool if we had you and a bunch of other artists that you want on to do.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. I would love that. Yeah,
let's make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Ping me around there. We'll make it happen for sure.
Right, a reminder. Listeners, viewers, next episode 170 is with Mark Allen Gunnels, and after that it's Chuck Wendig, followed by Tananarive Dew. So we are in for an exciting ending half of season 3.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be nervous to talk to Tananarive.
Yeah,
probably Chuck, just a lot bit. Listeners, you have many choices in podcasts. Thank you for picking us.